This is day 5. We started like we wanted to finish, and that is strong. So I am so pleased to have our next panel of amazing women join us. Ashanti and Dr. Adana Steinacker. Am I killing that? I did it right. So they're going to talk to us about how perfectionism activates self-sabotaging narratives and how to stop it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our last, but our best, and our first to leading to 2024, our next panel. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
It's so cool outside, isn't it? It's so cold out here. I don't know how we're going to manage. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Y'all know this. I'm Southerner. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
There we go. There we go. Okay, well, welcome to the closing panel of Cannes on a Friday.
The best panel.
The best panel. Closing, leaving the best for last. And so we're talking about how perfectionism actually activates self-sabotaging narratives, and more importantly, how to stop it. Because a lot of times we talk about the issues that we have, but we don't talk about the solutions. And so that's what we're going to get into today. So first and foremost, my name is Ashanti Renee. I am a licensed therapist and coach, and I work with high-performing creatives to help them navigate blocks that are keeping them from optimizing their best levels of success. And the caveat to that is they get to define what success looks like for them. I am also the founder and chief wellness officer of the AXON Group, a coaching firm that works with individuals. They're giving me theme music, that works with individuals, small groups, corporate wellness in order for people to identify what their goals are and how to move forward. Lastly, I'm the executive director of the Susu House, a nonprofit focused on healing equity to make sure that there aren't financial barriers to keep people from having those opportunities that they need in order to heal, because that shouldn't be a restriction. And I am here today with my dear friend, my dear, you see they got music for you too?
Yes, thank you.
They gave you some spicy music. My dear friend, Dr. Adana, and I'm gonna have her introduce herself.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I know that it is the last panel, so we appreciate you being here. My name is Dr. Adana Steinacker. I am a trained medical professional, a TEDx speaker, a digital creator, and the founder of House of Adana. It's a community platform that empowers women.
So here's the thing. Dr. Adana says that
I like that music that always comes up when my name is mentioned.
There's always the music that comes on. Funny, but no, the perfect, we're talking about perfectionism. We're gonna give you all the things now. How do you pivot? So here's the thing I love about Adana. So when she and I met, she introduced herself as this global brand, this person that's doing all these amazing things. And then she says, on the side, I am able to practice surgery. Like, I have trained to be a surgeon. I was like, on the side? Like, that's your side job? That's your side? Okay. I need to work on my side gigs.
You're doing fine.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But let's get into this conversation. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about perfection. It is often used as a coping mechanism that enables us to feel safe. And so how it plays out is often like, let me cross every T, let me dot every I, let me go through every single scenario that there is so I can make sure I'm in control of everything that could possibly happen in any particular moment. And that may seem productive, but what's underneath that is this deep sense of fear. This deep sense of they're gonna figure me out. They're gonna look at me and they're gonna know there is something that I don't know how to do, or they're gonna see the imposter that I feel that I am. And so outwardly you may be thinking, well, Ashanti, what you just named was about being productive and being on top of things. And the thing is, you move from productivity to perfectionism when those moments of, the campaign not going as it should, the project possibly failing, your expectations not being met, and then you make that an indictment of who you are as a person. It becomes about your value, not the metrics you were trying to meet. And that's when it shifts from being productive to being about perfectionism. And that is such a killer of our creativity, because perfectionism robs us of our humanity. And so instead of our wins being wins, our wins become our burdens, and then they become the thing we focus on to try to strive for over and over again, and we have no space to be creative. So with that being said, Dr. Adana and all of your global global brands and all your many. This woman has like 9 businesses. Like she's actually a global brand. When has perfectionism impacted your ability to be creative?
I think I'll give a background history on why I even felt that pressure or that struggle. So my background is I am Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria to a family that valued the highest level of everything, right? Mm-hmm. If they were going to pay for your school, you had to be the best. Sounds like I'm rapping. Yes.
They're giving you theme music.
So I had to be the best at what I did.
Y'all heard that note?
There was so much expectation. I went to medical school. My family paid for that. So, of course, there was the expectation that I needed to do well. And so over years of just living with that narrative of try to be the best, not necessarily from a bad place, but they really just wanted the best for me. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I just thought, if it's not good, I'm not doing it. It has to be the best. It has to be perfect. And then when I was done with my professional training, I found that actually started influencing my creativity.
Right.
Because it went against what creativity was supposed to be about, which is freedom, fluidity. But I had to just I had to anticipate what every other person would say about my work before putting it out there. And I found that really hindered me. And the biggest example was that last year, I pitched to YouTube to launch a docuseries about women's empowerment and sustainability. I wanted them to fund it for a year, and they said yes. That was in October last year. The series was supposed to launch in January, but I've only just put out the first episode 2 weeks ago because I spent months analyzing and over-analyzing. This is not good. What is this person going to say about it? Is he going to receive this reaction and that reaction? And I just found that really held me back.
Right.
So even though I'm aware of it now, I still see in some work that I do that I'm still very much held back by the idea of perfectionism.
Right. Well, you know, we're recovering perfectionists. We do recovering ING because even this morning I was like, what did I sign up for? What am I doing? No. But something that you named earlier, and I want to make sure I bring that back into the room. You said when you were growing up, there was this pressure, and not from a bad place, but a pressure put upon you to do well. Yeah. And often high-achieving people, it is absolutely meant for good, but we start to believe the only way that we can have validation, the only way that we are valuable, the only way that we are worthy, the only way that we are lovable is if we do something at the best of our ability every single time. Yeah. And our best is above what anyone else can do.
But that's very subjective, right?
Right. And then you start to create in your mind, like, well, if I'm not perfect and I don't do it perfect, then there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And it actually isn't at all.
No, because perfectionism in itself is setting unrealistic expectations by yourself for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And then putting those on other people because that's all you've understood.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of got into a piece of it when you started talking about the self-sabotaging behavior. Because yours was, first of all, I had a docuseries that I launched, just kind of threw that in there. And it took an extra 9 months. Yeah. But I still launched a docuseries. Yeah. But in your mind, I'm pretty sure you had to think through, it's like, well, this are all the things that went wrong. It took this much time to launch it. It took this much time to do this. Yeah. This wasn't right. This wasn't working. Instead of focusing on the win that is the launch of the docuseries. Exactly. And if I'm going to be honest, some of my self-sabotaging behaviors definitely include procrastination. And the reason it includes procrastination, I'm giving y'all my personal business right now, is because I realize if I can keep putting something off, eventually I won't have enough time to do it, and then I can blame it on not having enough time to do it, instead of being honest about I was just afraid to do it in the first place.
Yeah, and so underneath all of that is fear, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
Was the fear of being judged by other people?
It was fear of being judged by other people. It was fear, honestly, of doing something really well out the gate. I think sometimes people often forget when you have success early, there is this deep internal desire to keep meeting that exact expectation every single time. But that's not going to happen because every project will be different. But if we keep that same expectation and that same way of ourselves, we start to have so much fear about trying to do anything. And the very thing the very place where creativity lives gets stifled because now you're in your head focusing on the what ifs, what cans, when should we, versus just doing the thing that got you the success in the first place, and that's being free and creative.
Yeah, it's the analysis paralysis,
Absolutely.
right? Where you try to anticipate everything that could go wrong, every criticism that you will receive before doing something. And I think that really, really holds a lot of us back.
Yeah.
Because the only way that we learn is when we put that work out there. And I find that one of the biggest things about perfectionism is the fear of getting criticism, or actually getting feedback that we perceive to be criticism.
That part.
Right? And then that really
part.
just holds us back from trying because
Right.
you want it to be perfect. Everyone wants a great feedback.
Right.
Everyone wants their work to be celebrated, but we leave little room for saying, hey, how about you look at it this way?
Right. And then that criticism feeds into this fear that we had anyway. It's triggering that fear we had anyway that it may not be good enough. And it's like, see, this is why it has to be perfect. This is why I couldn't do X, Y, and Z. I will say another fear that I had is, for a very long time, was a fear of failure. And the issue was I had to redefine my relationship to the word failure. And what that meant was failure used to mean I didn't meet the expectation that I had set out for this particular opportunity, this meeting, this relationship, this job, this promotion, whatever that might be. And what I had to realize was failure is not something not meeting the expectation that I had, especially from a creative place. Failure was not trying. Because if I tried it and it didn't work out the way I wanted, I still learned something. So I can either win or I can learn, but failure only comes when I didn't try at all.
I love that.
It sounds good until I do it, so I'm still actually working on it. So I'm saying that to you now, both as an accountability moment for myself in the future.
Yeah, for me, so fear of failure has been the biggest thing that I have struggled with, right? I can honestly say I went through medical school because of the fear of failure rather than the determination to succeed. And I was already a content creator at that point. I was a YouTuber, an Instagrammer, and everything. And I was taking my audience through the journey of combining medicine with creativity, with motherhood, with everything. And I was so terrified of failing in anything that I did. I felt like I needed to meet this standard of perfection.
Right.
And that fear was actually a negative way to look at things. It was a negative way to go through school, to do anything. My creativity was stifled. And now, the older that I've gotten, I've realized, well, rather than perfectionism, I can strive for excellence. I can be intentional about what I'm putting out there. I can do my research, I can learn, but I should not be held back by the criticism that people will potentially give me.
Because someone might.
You know, because that's how I learn,
Right.
and that's how I grow.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I strive for excellence. I don't focus on perfection.
Yes.
Because honestly, you can't create things in fear.
Yeah.
Fear does not produce creativity.
Yeah.
It only creates more fear.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give? I have a few thoughts. We're both in healthcare. We're both healers.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are in the middle of this right now, struggling with this right now, working through this right now, or having their first epiphany of this right now?
Yeah. So for me, I feel like the biggest advice I would give is to start working on yourself, right? Mindfulness. So even though I still have areas of my life where I am held back by the idea of my project or my work being perfect, I'm aware of that. And I think that is that's the biggest blessing, that I know that this extra voice in my head telling me, hey, how about you do this and how about you do that? I know that that's not the creative voice. That is the fear. So being aware of that starts with being very mindful. Journaling, all of these practices, or meditation, all these practices that makes you connect with the real voice that you have. So being mindful is number one. And number two, just go for it. And it might sound like the easiest advice to give, just do it. But really, it's as simple as that. Just do it.
Right.
And just don't care about what people have to say.
Right.
Because I know you will know the difference between feedback and criticism. And unfortunately, especially when you look at the younger generation, social media really, and the cancel culture that comes with social media doesn't make it easier for us to say, hey,
Right.
I'm just going to put out my work out there.
Right.
Because there have been several experiences and several examples of people being criticized to the extent where they just running to hide, right? They don't feel motivated to work. So if you can really put on that tough skin to say, hey, I really don't care about what you have to say. I will take constructive criticism from the people that I love, and I will not be held back. I think having that sort of unfuckwithable attitude is what I would advise.
It definitely helps. And if it is bad, because let's be honest, this does mean, not all ideas are great ideas, but do the bad idea. Go ahead and get the bad idea out the way, right? You see, I was like, oh yeah, that was not my best, maybe 1 star, but now that that's out my system, we can do some better things.
Yeah.
I would say some of the advice I would give is more from a mental perspective.
Yeah.
And so when those thoughts start to race and it's like, okay, I'm not good enough, what am I doing here,
Yeah.
what's happening? I invite people to ask 2 questions. The first question is, what is true, right? So when all the thoughts start racing in our mind and we start doing all these scenarios of what could and should and may be, pause for a second and ask, what is actually true right now?
Yeah, so
in
that's
this
like
moment.
Cognitive behavioral therapy then, like CBT.
Right, exactly,
like CBT,
right?
yeah.
What is true in this actual moment? Not what could be, not what may be. What is the creative thing that is true for me in this moment,
Yeah.
right? And once I understand that, what can I actually control? What can I actually control? I can't control how people respond. I can't control how people receive a thing. All I can control is what I put out there because this was from me. And with that being said, understanding that ideas are actually gifts. And if you have been gifted with an idea, with a concept, with a business plan, with a DEI strategy, with a new suggestion for how people should do promotions or restructuring of work, that was given to you. That means you can be trusted with that idea.
Yeah.
Now, it might change, it might, the form might shift, but you can be trusted with that thing. And it was never meant to be perfect, it was meant to be yours.
It's your responsibility to make sure it's out there to the world, right?
And when you don't do that, you are doing everyone a disservice. So I do have a quick question because I understand it's a little warm out here, but I do want to ask a couple of people, how has self-sabotaging behavior shown up for you all since you've been here at CAN? Okay, we got 3. We're going to go first, and then Lo, and then Emmanuel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alexander Quick, HBCU ambassador. I would say one way that self-sabotage has showed up in me personally is when I first got here. I'm an introvert by nature. So at first, I wasn't really talking to a lot of people, just observing, just trying to get a lay of the land. But it was actually a conversation with Asante. We talked about, just taking this step, and taking comfortable steps, like not getting out of your comfort zone. And, I think that was the second day I was here. And since then, it's just been a little bit easier, like been able to walk up to anybody. Because now it's, instead of having to go up like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's more confident. So, yeah, I would say that. That was it.
Yeah, for me, and I'll tell on myself, when they mentioned the Target thing, I was not going to bring that up on stage. And for me, I think that girls and women are often discouraged from being too boastful. And I think that I've received a lot of backlash in the past of, who does she think she is? And you're too confident in yourself. And so I've learned this unhealthy behavior of kind of saying, all right, I'm not going to tell you, I'm just going to show you, and you're going to figure it out later, because I'm used to people not wanting to bet on me as the first choice. They often find out that I was the right choice after I've gone on to the next thing. So that's one self-sabotaging behavior that I have, which is I don't brag enough.
I can attest to that because when I met you, you didn't brag enough. You should have bragged enough.
Hello, everybody. Emmanuel Reed, also CCDC ambassador. A beautiful conversation we had in the beginning of the week really put my perfectionism in a new light. Growing up, especially as a brother, we have this tendency to hold on to trauma, as you put, that's unfair. Psychological, generational trauma, arguably a result of post-traumatic slavery syndrome. And that ends up looking, when you talk about in the context, as both of you have so eloquently put, in the framework of perfectionism, you focus on these minute details. Arguably, a reality that other communities or other people from other backgrounds don't necessarily have to do as well, right? So in the sake of the conversation for exemplification, I'm getting ready to meet with C-suite executives. I'd done homework, and I'd done all this work to prove that I not only belonged here, but I also belonged in a really intimate setting where there were a lot of opportunities to advance my career. I knew I was confident and passionate about being in that space, but then in our one-on-one, I'm starting to trip out about these super small details. I was dressed fairly well, but especially in comparison to other CCDC ambassadors who all of y'all have been to the nines all week, very proud of you. I'm sitting here saying, like, am I good enough? Are my ideas of value? As you said, do I really belong here? And you start to question yourself in a way that you hadn't been doing before, but because of this social circle, right, I start to doubt myself. And so I really appreciated, so that was to answer the first part of your question, and how I got over that. As Ashante put, you have to look at yourself and say, I won't go through obviously all the details, but what is in your mind? What ideas are going to come out of your mouth? You know that's cold, you know that's dope, so why are you concerned about your very professional shirt or very professional attire you already have on? And it happens with colleagues not only here, but also on college campuses all over the country. You focus on these small things like, oh man, now I'm not good enough, and then you start doing all this rigmarole, when in reality, you know if you took your objective observations, wrote them on paper, and compared them anonymously to anybody else from other communities, it would be the same, if not colder. So I really appreciated how Ashante really helped to break that down, because black men don't go to therapy enough. We don't talk about the real things that are holding us back from creative analyses and creative input into some of the global brands that we've seen here. And then as well for House of Adana, we don't really do enough to support other black businesses in a way that we bring our lived experiences to environments like yourself. So I appreciate both of y'all keeping it real, keeping it 98-2, and I hope everyone enjoyed the conference.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, Cheyenne, CCDC ambassador. I think my perfectionism and self-sabotage shows up as over-talking and over-explaining myself, when really I can just say what it is and who I am and leave it at that, and leave it up to the people that I'm speaking to interpret whether or not I'm not worthy, but like welcome in that space. And so I think one of my partners back home told me as I was coming out here, don't overtalk. Say who you are, say what you want to do, and express yourself, and leave it at that. And I think when it comes to self-sabotage, it's, to your point, Lo, like you weren't willing to speak up and say your things, but for me, I'm telling, when I was 12 years old, like telling my whole life story to everyone when it doesn't have to be all of that. And I think when I'm talking about perfectionism, it's just, like I said, say what you want to say who you are, and then leave it at that, and leave it up to those people to decide if they want you in that space, but know that you always belong there, period.
Period.
I love everything that you all said. I'm going to close out with one quick bit of advice. There's this funny thing about perfectionism, because we have this illusion that it's this one absolute standard of truth. But if everyone is completely different and everyone has different understandings of what works for them, how can one thing ever be perfect? You are perfect the way that you are. However you show up, whatever campaigns you're putting out, the ideas that you're doing, Those are yours. Do not let labels that other people have put upon you be your labels. Return those to sender. You are great exactly the way that you are. Y'all are meant to be creatives, which means it's meant to get messy. It's meant to change. It's meant to pivot. Lean into that. And that's when you will find the perfect creative moment.
Amen.
I do want to bring Adrian up real quick. So speaking, I know we're talking about things not being perfect. Come on over. So, like, get out of the sun. Here we go. No, I just wanted to say to you publicly, I know we're really big on giving people their flowers in real time, and people give them to folks in private. I want to also say it to you publicly. Because of you, the experience that you had at Cannes in 2017 is not my reality. It's not Adana's reality. It is no one here's reality. Because of the experience that you had, because of the wall that you went through, I will never know that grief. I will never know that frustration. I will never know feeling untethered, because this is the only Cannes experience I've ever had, and the only Cannes experience I will ever have, and that is because of you. And so I personally, and Adana and I personally, want to say thank you, because this is next, yes, this is next level.
Thank you guys so much. What did I say? We start like we finish, and that was extremely strong. When we opened up the panel, we always say, and I'll close it that way, on the count of 3, I want everyone under the sound of my voice to say yes. 1, 2, 3.
Yes!
I won't make you say it again, because I think you are used to saying yes. Expect a yes wherever you go and whatever you do. Say yes to other people. Bring those people in with you, and let's just change the world. This year's session or week's title was Expect the Unexpected, moving from the woe is me to the wow is me. And it's because of you, all of you here, and the speakers and the incredible sponsors, that I only feel wow when it comes to DE&I and inclusion, when it comes to the work of creativity and all that we do. So I thank you so much for this incredible experience. Cannes Lions Festival, what is it? Is it CCDC, or we forget the name, but I'll try it again. The Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity will never, ever, 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 ever be the same.
Ever, ever.
Thank you guys so much. We will see you again in 2024. CCDC Inkwell Beach 2024.